My ex tried to cheat. It didn't work out for him though. After a while, my ex would sleep with his phone in his pocket, which was a strange red sign, but I never said anything. I knew something was up when he wouldn't even bring out his phone in front of me. It slid out of his sweatpants one night, and I woke up with it near my legs. I was about to put it on the charger when I saw he had a slew of alerts and messages from a dating app. I wanted to smack him awake, but I didn't do it. So I made a profile using photos of a buddy of mine that he never met, and I had her approval. She was just his style, and I knew he adored blue eyes. So, when we matched, like I predicted, we started conversing. We had been talking for approximately a week before I proposed we meet. Flirting and encounters. He informed me that he was unmarried and shared a home with a buddy. So I proposed that he pay for a hotel room so that we could FCK. He said that he would. We choose a location. To be sure, I paid for everything since he was out of work after losing his job. He used deception to deplete my savings account over the course of a year. We're family. We look out for each other when we're in trouble. He'd add whenever I informed him I didn't have any extra cash. I paid off my college debts, all of the expenses for a one-bedroom apartment, and the food. This youngster used it to approach me and beg for money. That his mother's birthday was approaching, and he wanted to get her something special. As a result, I handed him $50, simply because it was amusing at the time. I vividly remember the look on his face at the time. He departed that weekend. He said that he was heading to his mother's house and would most likely spend the night. I kissed him goodbye and wished him happy time. Then I packed all of his belongings and placed them outside. It passed quickly since I reside in a U.S. metropolis. I had the locks replaced. He messaged me a couple times on the app, and I told him I was running late because I wanted to look great, but I was on my way and apologized. My buddy also emailed me some sensual images to give him that didn't completely cover her face. She's genuine. I'd even persuaded him to jay off and email me a video. Then, after forcing him to sit until around 1 a.m., I sent him a photo of his possessions being rummaged through by a homeless guy through the dating app, and to enjoy his hotel stay. I went to bed as soon as my phone rang and blocked his number. He was standing outside my door when I got home from work on Monday, ugly sobbing, begging. He told me he was homeless and had nowhere to stay. When I refused, he became enraged, as is his wont. I contacted the cops when he began grasping and attempting to enter my unit. I filed a restraining order because he threatened my life and the lives of my dogs for evicting him. He ended up relocating a few hours away to be closer to his soul family, and he has a job. I hope he learned anything. Story 2. I discovered 20+ years later my wife cheated on me the same day I did. I'll attempt to make this narrative brief since it has numerous details that I'll store for a later piece. Please accept any errors since I'm writing on my phone and am not a natural English speaker. My wife and I began when we were quite young. She dated a few men previously, but nothing serious, just making out and groping. Before I had intercourse with a few of ladies. Our life has been amazing since we started dating. We both studied the same field at the same institution, and were both chosen for internships at the same public organization in our final year. But she and another student were there first, and I arrived 6 months later after they were done. There was a distance between us throughout those 6 months. While she was working there, I continued to take lessons. I recall feeling a little envious when she spoke about her job and her colleagues, especially one of them, who was 3 or 4 years older than me and was an attractive and clever man. We even went to numerous social gatherings with them and their families while she was there, and I knew everyone. So, in her final month there, I had an affair with a girl I met on the internet. I don't want to blame anything on the distance between us. It was all my fault, and it's nothing I'm proud of. This scenario lasted a few months, and our relationship did not end, but it did worsen significantly, as you may expect. First, I was cheating her with this girl, and afterwards, I was so humiliated and terrible about what I had done that I couldn't even look her in the eyes. She never questioned about it, despite the fact that she was clearly aware that I was seeing someone else. Then I began my 6-month internship with this company, and things between us gradually returned to normal, though my sorrow for cheating on her took years to overcome. So 4 years later, we married, had 2 children, and our lives have been great in practically every way I can think of. I say nearly because we are just like any other couple, and we have had our share of problems, but nothing major. Our life has also been quite wonderful, and it has been even better as our children have gained more independence. I'd always fantasized of MMF threesome with her as the F, and I finally confessed to her. We integrated this into our filthy conversation and had a great time with it. She believed it was just a dream, but I informed her a few months ago that I wanted to make it a reality. She was astonished at first, but eventually consented, and we decided to begin looking for the perfect person. I often imagine her in this MMF situation, as well as having with some man on her alone. I regularly envision her bringing a man to her hotel during one of her work travels. I'm not into her hot wifing, but the idea of her having makes me swoon. So I informed her about it, and while she was in bed, I started asking her about her prior experiences. She always claimed she had only had with me, but I pushed, telling her I didn't mind if she cheated on me once in a while. And I didn't mind since we were talking about bringing a man to our bed after all. She always said she had no intercourse with anybody else, but one day while F, I inquired whether she had sucked another guy's cock. The response was the same. I then inquired whether she had touched another cock, to which she replied, yes. I was taken aback, and I couldn't stop thinking about it for many days. I had my narrative, and I wanted to know more. But I didn't want to hear about any juvenile touches she received when she was very little. I brought up the matter again the following time we were F, and she laughed. She started telling me about a time when she had F a man. When I inquired when or where, she said she didn't want to tell me because I'd know who he was. I guess my surprise started when I realized she was talking seriously to someone I knew. I didn't have to press her anymore, and she told me it was during her internship's goodbye party. I recognized who he was right away. Shock is a pretty modest term to express how I felt at the time. Suddenly, I realized it had to have occurred on the same day, if not the same week, that I was F with this other female I mentioned at the start. But most importantly, a few months later, I started working there, and I had this man sat in front of me for an entire year. I worked there for another 6 months after my internship finished, chatting about pretty much everything, mostly football and music, our common interests. Many years later, I felt punished for my dishonesty. As she said, she was aware of it, and her guilt about what she had done just gone when she discovered I was seeing another female, and she also felt punished. We had felt the same way, despite the fact that we were 20 years apart. I comprehended why she never questioned me about it, why she never chastised me for it. This is what occurred. After the farewell supper, they headed out for drinks. As the night progressed, the others left, until it was only them two. She said they had had a large amount of alcohol. She offered to drive her home, and they proceeded to his vehicle, where he kissed her and asked whether she wanted to go to her house or his. They proceeded to his home in another nearby town, about 20 minutes away, where she was living alone. His girlfriend, now wife, didn't reside there yet. They kissed in the coach, and she quickly lowered his trousers and started sucking him. They then went to bed where he put on a condom, and she claims she had a little cock, and he didn't appear to get completely erect. He just lasted a few minutes, and she simply held him inside while on top and continued moving till she arrived. If we simply speak about them, she admits it was probably the booze, but she was a little dissatisfied with him. She started to regret it, as did he, and they didn't discuss much more. He drove her home, and they never spoke about it again, despite the fact that she only went back to the office once to grab her stuff. A few months later, I was sitting in front of him every morning for a year. To round off the scenario, I ran into him again a few months ago after a long absence. We exchanged information about our work and families, and as I was leaving, I asked for his phone because I had a project that he would be interested in. I stated this because it wasn't the appropriate time to discuss it, but I'd want to have a drink with him and tell him that I know that everything is okay, but I am aware. What are your thoughts?